Welcome to Northbound Alaska, the Trucking Files, a podcast where we talk to haul road drivers, both past and present, to carry on the knowledge and experience of one of the toughest roads on earth. There we go. Try your mic again.
Check.
Okay.
Check.
Yeah, there we go. So, I'm Nathan File. This is Aaron File. We're brothers. Our dad started driving this road, I don't know. Can't remember when he said, but he was up there in the 70s, putting in the pipeline, and I guess, what's your earliest memory of being up on the haul road?
I remember dropping off Coldfoot Hill. I think it was probably with Dad, but we had a load of fuel for Coldfoot. But I just remember it's like, man, this is a long drive, and then realizing later that was only halfway.
And you must have been how old at that time?
I think I was probably almost 5. That was a long time ago.
So were you sleeping the whole time, or were
No.
you staying awake, or what were you?
I never went to sleep. I remember one time I fell asleep in the chair. Dad had told me to go lay down because I was tired. But I did not want to miss anything. And I remember I fell asleep and fell out of the chair. And I remember Dad stopping the truck, and the Jake killed the motor, and then the batteries are dead, and the truck wouldn't start again. And luckily we're on top of the hill, so Dad just let the thing start rolling. Thing fired up again, but he's like, I told you to go to bed.
But you're like, Dad, this is the best spot to fall asleep in the truck. I can't, if I go lay in the sleeper, I won't be able to fall asleep.
That's right. I didn't want to miss nothing. I was taking notes.
What kind of truck was he driving?
Well, that was an 81 Western Star. Remember he bought that. Well, maybe it's an 82. I don't remember, but remember Dad bought that brand new.
Oh.
So
you've been pretty much hooked since you were a little kid.
Oh man, that's all I ever wanted to do is drive truck. That's all I still want to do is drive truck.
There's something about it. There's a freedom to it. There's the horsepower, the big rig, the wheels, the tires. There's a lot that goes into it, and when you start looking at how much these trucks have influenced this country and how this country was built on trucks, it's kind of interesting. I've been trying to figure out how to describe that, but it's almost like America, really. I don't know if that sounds cheesy, but
there's a lot of freedom with it. It's you get in your truck and you go driving, and you don't got somebody looking over your shoulder all the time. You gotta love it.
So we're still recording. Okay, good. I just had to check. I don't know why this isn't.
Man, you're getting good at that.
I'm getting really good. I should have just stayed in the truck. Yeah, I don't know if... yeah, it's still recording. Okay. It's just I don't know why it's not following along there. Okay, so you're 5 years old, riding with Dad. And then when did you start driving? When was the first time you were actually driving the truck?
Well, it was Dad was letting me drive then. I
At 5?
Well, I'd sit on his lap, and
oh, okay.
Yeah, I do have another vivid memory dropping off 62 Mile. I'm looking at Pump 2, and yeah, I was just sitting there on Dad's lap, and big old steering wheel trying to drive that thing. He's like, keep that thing straight. They're gonna think you're drunk. It's like I don't think 5-year-olds drink, but Dad said I did.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, my phone's still going off here. So that was your first few memories, Coldfoot Hill, and dropping off 62 Mile with a big steering wheel in your hands, steering this huge rig.
Just like that.
Outstretched like that. So, you're a teenager. What are you doing when you're in your teens? You're working at a truck shop. You're working at a yard somewhere. How has this progressed?
I remember Dad was hauling groceries then, and I was working in the warehouse, I think, when I was 16. But Dad would always wait for me on Friday, and I'd get off about 11 in the morning. I'd start at 3, and I'd run with Dad up there, and he needed help unloading groceries, so he'd always let me drive. And it's like, if I helped him unload groceries, he'd let me drive. So I guess we were trading off.
So he'd let you drive back south or north or what?
Yeah, I remember the first time we traded over there by Dietrich, and I drove all the way home. But yeah, he was always letting me drive. But at that age, it's easy to pick it up. But when you're sitting there in that passenger seat, and I was just you're learning all that stuff. I mean, you're just watching and learning. Dad's teaching, but he doesn't really know he's teaching. And it's interesting, a lot of the mentors in my life, people that mentor you, you don't realize, or they don't realize they're mentoring you, even though you're watching. And I learned a lot of hard lessons back then before I ever even started driving. It makes it that much easier. So, good memories.
Yeah, I just remember hearing all the stories from Dad when I was a kid. So Aaron and I are 10 years apart. So I came along a little while later, and I remember going up with Dad in the truck, hauling groceries. Well, I wasn't hauling, but sitting in the passenger seat, and I just vividly remember going up Tulick Hill. You could see all the delineators, going up the hill, or maybe it was 117. It was one of those hills, but it was right in there. It's like, it was summertime, I was just like, man, there's nothing out here. It's just, trees, it's...
Yeah, I had a memory of riding with Dad back then, too, and he was running for the ice cut, and it was like, I remember there being a corner there, and it's like, man, he was doing 52 plus. It's like, are we going to make this bottom corner? He was rolling. It's like, man, I was sitting there hanging on, and he just had a big smile on his face.
And that's how you run at the ice cut, right?
You sound just like him.
I've had a lot of years to be around him, and but... So, when you finally get your CDL, where did you start working then?
Well, I went over to Alaska West when I was 19. I'd already had my CDL, and I went over to go talk to them guys, and they wanted me to start the next day because they knew Dad, and they thought I'd be a good fit, but I learned a lot over there. Yeah. But yeah, I started over there at 19, and they wouldn't let me start driving until I was 21, but it was worth the wait.
So you just worked in the yard?
Yep. Spent a lot of time learning how to load trucks and loading chemicals and loading pipe and loading all kinds of stuff. I remember that first bulker I loaded. It's like, just load it up to that line up there. And I loaded that thing up to the line. I was like 7,000 pounds overweight. It's like, well, the first load I screwed up.
Well, someone had told you to load it to that line, though, so.
Yeah, you don't realize that when you load that stuff, it's heaped up and then it settles out, and that's where the line is. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got to learn how to unload 7,000 pounds on my first load.
So when you did that, did you have to unload it into another ISO, or how did that work? Or did you put it back in the rail car?
No, that was a bulker. We just unloaded it to a different bulker there. But
okay.
Yeah, I learned a lot.
So, who took you up the haul road the first time, and when you were driving?
Well, actually, my first paying load, Dad was still hauling groceries, but they let me follow Dad up the road because David knew him. So Dad waited for me, and I followed him up there. And I actually just found them pictures the other day of my first load. I don't know if I showed those to you or not.
Oh, no. Yeah.
It was kind of neat. My one cousin was up from Oklahoma, and he was riding with Dad. So yeah, we drove up there and went out to West Dock and unloaded rig mats. And
so you guys just had CB radios. You didn't have the big radios back then, right?
Dad didn't have a big radio. He just had a CB. There wasn't very many big radios back then. It was just a lot of guys just had their company channel, just one channel radios. So
was Dad just saying, okay, this hill, I'll keep it around this speed and put it in this gear, and okay, we're going to go up this hill and yada, 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 because he probably knew how much weight you had on. And
yeah, I don't remember. I don't think he talked too much, but
he'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I'd spent so much time riding with him, too, that I kind of just followed along. I really don't remember.
It was almost just natural then.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, Dad had been letting me drive way before that, too, so it was It wasn't like I was learning how to drive, but I was just. It is a little bit different when you're by yourself, though.
Do you remember how it felt driving for the first time by yourself? I'm sure you're probably pretty excited, like, I'm finally doing this.
Oh, man, it was awesome. I remember being out there, and I remember getting back from that trip, and my calf muscle just locking up. I mean, it was, I didn't realize it, but I was trying to push that right pedal through the floor, and it was like, I thought it was how much effort you put into that throttle, how much power you got, but I realized I didn't need to do that.
Yeah. So that was how long ago now? It's 2025.
That load was June of 2000.
So 25 years ago.
Yeah, I guess it is. It makes me feel old.
But you remember it like it was yesterday, huh?
Yeah. I remember coming back, I had a backhaul too, and I run out of fuel coming up 34 Mile. That was quite a lesson. Yeah. So I dropped my load up there, and I got it going bobtail to Hilltop, got fuel, and then come back at the backhaul. Yeah. I should have bought some fuel at Coldfoot.
Yeah. Lots of things we learn as we go along here. So I take it Dad was pretty much just your mentor, and then you probably had a few other mentors there, mentors.
It's weird. I didn't really do much trucking with Dad, because I come back by myself that first trip. Because he had to go unload groceries, and I just unload the rig mats and just come back. I loaded that pipe, but Dad still had a bunch of drops to go deliver. But yeah, I come back by myself. But I remember I spent a lot of time with Dave Inslee. And he'd been on the cat trains and stuff like that, or driving truck following the cat trains back in, he'd been up there 69 and 70. I can't remember if he was back there in 68 or not, but man, I spent a lot of time with him. And then Lonnie and Terry Dunn. And yeah, you don't really realize some of the guys, a lot of Dad's friends looking out for you, just making sure you were okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it'd been blowing that fall. It'd really been snowing and blowing, and I know Dave Inslee got stuck up there, but he loaded a couple loads in Prudhoe, and I was still kind of working in the yard part-time, and he'd brought a load of crane booms down with the counterweights and stuff back to Coldfoot, and then I bobtailed up to help him bring them loads back, and oh man, it was 32 degrees and snowing, and I hooked up to my load and got hooked up with him, and I went taking off out of the parking lot ahead of him, which Dad chewed me out later for. It's like, man, if somebody's showing you the road, you follow them, let them get you down the road. But I remember starting off the knob over there about 10 mile an hour, and I dropped off the hard part and come around the next corner on the bench, and I hit the brakes a little bit, and I slid that trailer off the road. And man, I got on the throttle right away, but I felt like my guardian angels were just holding me on the road. But man, I had my foot stuffed in the throttle after that. I just barely pulled that trailer out of the ditch. But oh man, what a scary time. But the problem was I was going too slow. Okay. And it's like I was in the last corner of the hill. There's nobody coming. Just cut that thing loose, And sometimes going too slow can get you into problems.
Yeah. You got to find that happy medium speed in between.
So yeah, we got back to town, and Dave went in the office and told him guys I should probably wait till it froze up a little bit before I went up there again.
Transition time's not a good time to learn, really.
No, it was terrible when yeah, but that was a valuable lesson. I try not to go too slow anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good deal. Yeah. So the reason we're doing this podcast is to bring other truckers on to talk about their experiences, what they learned, and how we could help each other out and make the haul road great again. I mean, to steal a certain phrase, but
it's funny. Everybody that's been up there has had lessons to learn, and you can learn the hard way, or you can watch other people and learn from other people's mistakes. And I mean, it's sad. There's people got hurt or even killed learning lessons the hard way. So, there's nothing new under the sun. You can learn from other people.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's always good to keep learning, especially Yeah, especially up here, because it seems like, even though I've been doing it just for a little while, I'm always learning something new.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Some of the rules that Dad taught me was you're always prepared to meet somebody, and I mean, there's sometimes you're cutting corners or getting in a hurry or something like that, and that's one rule. Even if you're cruising along, if you're prepared to meet somebody, you'll do okay. But man, there's some guys that are crowding people and might run somebody off the road or something. Try to remember some of the other lessons I learned, but I guess another one that Dad had taught me was always be humble. You need to be confident but humble. And I'll actually do that after I go by the scale and going up to Hilltop. Man, I'll be praying that God just keeps me humble and gives me wisdom and keeps me safe, and it's like I think a lot of people have learned to pray on that road.
Even people that don't believe. This road will make you a believer.
Yeah. And I've said that a lot too. If you don't stay humble, that road will humble you.
That's right. And that's where I wish we had Mr. Sean Roach in here, but that'll be on another future podcast. But, is there anything you want to talk about before we kind of end this intro here? And
I can't think of anything right now. I'm sure there'll be a lot of things that come up.
It'll come up, but we're going to have a lot of guests on, a lot of people that people on the haul road are going to know, and we're going to have some fun.
We're going to have some fun, and we're going to learn at the same time.
Sounds like a plan.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in. We really appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me.